Most people think they know who they are, but deep down, they feel an emptiness they can't explain. It's that strange sense of, something's missing, even when life looks normal on the outside. And here's the paradox, the part you're missing isn't new, it's ancient. You're not lost because you've never been found, you're lost because your erased past lives were hidden from you on purpose. It's the kind of truth that sounds unbelievable until you look at your own patterns. Think about it, why do you fear things you've never lived? Why do you love places you've never seen? Why do certain people feel familiar the moment you meet them? These aren't coincidences or psychological tricks. They're fragments of a soul journey stretching across lifetimes, leaking through the cracks of an identity you were taught to limit. And the most controversial part is this, forgetting wasn't natural. Forgetting was engineered. You were told reincarnation is fantasy, yet everything in your body, your emotions, and your instincts screams the opposite. The irony? What they call imagination is actually memory. What they call superstition is actually continuity. And what they call dangerous ideas happen to be the most liberating truth a human can access, the truth of forbidden reincarnation. Once you understand this, your entire life begins to make sense in ways no therapist or self-help book ever explained. And if a part of you feels like this message is waking something up, that's not by accident. It's because you've been here before, under names long forgotten and stories long buried. But today, you're about to remember what they tried so hard to erase, and once you remember, they can't take it from you ever again. He explains that most people walk through life sensing something is missing, yet can't put a finger on what it is. Deep down, they feel a strange emptiness, like a book with half the pages torn out. And he knows why. Traces of erased past lives linger in everyone's subconscious, whispering from the shadows. It's not that the memories vanished, they were intentionally buried. Someone once decided your soul journey would be easier to control if you were disconnected from who you've been. He often compares it to waking up from a dream that felt real but slips away the moment you try to recall it. The memory is there, but it's sealed behind layers of noise, routine, and distraction. This is the architecture behind forbidden reincarnation, not its non-existence, but its suppression. When people don't remember their other lives, they lose reference points of power, wisdom, and identity. And without these, they unknowingly accept limits that were never meant to be theirs. He likes giving a simple analogy. Imagine a traveler who has crossed continents yet wakes up with amnesia. They would feel lost, unsure of their skills, unaware of the dangers they've already overcome. Humanity is that traveler, carrying scars, talents, and instincts from other timelines, but cut off from their source. This separation leaves people more manipulable, more fearful, more dependent on external authority. Because when someone forgets their lineage, they stop questioning the script handed to them. And yet, he insists the truth slips through in tiny cracks, déjà vu, strange fears, inexplicable affinities, talents that appear out of nowhere. These flashes are the surviving signals of your soul journey, trying to remind you that you're not starting from zero. You've lived, fought, learned, and risen before. And the moment someone cracks open this door, well, that's when the real disruption begins, which leads directly to the next hidden layer they never wanted you to discover. He explains that ancient civilizations didn't whisper about reincarnation, they taught it openly, like basic arithmetic. To them, the idea of erased past lives would have sounded absurd, because remembering was part of their spiritual education. They saw the soul journey as a long, continuous thread weaving through lifetimes. But when modern systems took control, this knowledge suddenly became dangerous. And anything labeled dangerous is usually something that empowers people too much. He often points out how curious it is that science accepts genetic memory, ancestral trauma, and instinct, yet rejects the possibility of life before life. It's almost comical, the world accepts everything except the piece that completes the puzzle. That missing piece is forbidden reincarnation, a concept pushed into the margins to keep people spiritually disarmed. When you convince a society they only live once, you shrink their spiritual horizon to a tiny room. And in tiny rooms, people forget how vast they truly are. He sometimes shares an example from his own life, how he once felt an irrational fear of deep oceans for no obvious reason. No trauma, no bad experiences, nothing. But during a meditation session, he saw a flash of a shipwreck scene that didn't belong to this lifetime. At that moment, something clicked. His fear wasn't random at all. It was a ripple from one of his erased past lives, resurfacing like a message in a bottle drifting across dimensions. He assures people that these echoes aren't metaphors, they're real imprints folded into the layers of consciousness. Those instincts people feel towards certain places, cultures, or strangers aren't coincidences. They're bleed-throughs from other timelines, nudging the present self to remember its lineage. And once someone realizes their soul journey never began here, it becomes impossible to accept the small version of reality they were taught. Which naturally opens the door to something even more intriguing, the moments when your past self start pushing through the cracks. He explains that one of the first signals of erased past lives resurfacing is the sudden wave of emotions that make no sense in your current story. People feel anger without a trigger, sadness without a reason, or nostalgia for places they've never been. And he always says, when your feelings don't match your life, they're probably matching another one. These emotional spikes are not flaws, they're breadcrumbs from your soul journey trying to guide you back to yourself. He likes to give examples because they make everything clearer. Someone terrified of fire despite never experiencing burns. Another person who cries hearing a language they've never spoken. A child brilliant at music without ever being taught. These aren't coincidences, they're bleed-throughs from forbidden reincarnation, pieces of memory wrapped in instinct. The body remembers even when the mind forgets. He tells people to pay attention to their dreams, especially the ones that feel too real. Sometimes they show landscapes, faces, or events that don't exist in this timeline. One woman once told him about recurring dreams of ancient temples, only to discover later she could describe their architecture better than historians. That's how erased past lives try to break the illusion, by slipping through the cracks while the conscious mind sleeps. Dreams are the oldest form of memory recovery. And then there are connections, those strange, intense bonds with strangers that feel like reunions. A look, a voice, a tiny gesture can trigger instant recognition. He says this is the soul's equivalent of saying, "Hey, we've done this before." These encounters don't happen randomly, they're checkpoints on your soul journey, reminders that time is layered, not linear. And when these signs start showing up more often, they hint that something deeper is waking up, and it brings us to an uncomfortable but necessary question: how did they make you forget in the first place? He explains that forgetting doesn't happen accidentally, it's engineered. The moment a soul arrives here, layers of conditioning begin shaping its identity, slowly burying the truth of erased past lives under routines, beliefs, and fear. This is why he says that society doesn't erase memory, it replaces it. And the more noise a person absorbs, the harder it becomes to hear the whispers of their own soul journey. This design keeps people looking outward instead of inward. He often uses a simple analogy. Imagine a treasure chest locked inside a room full of loudspeakers blasting distractions. The treasure represents your other lifetimes, and the noise symbolizes culture, media, religion, and expectations. Every message you receive tells you, you're just this one human with one story. That's the foundation of forbidden reincarnation, not denying its existence, but smothering it under layers of acceptable narratives. When everyone believes the same lie, it becomes an invisible truth. He also talks about trauma as one of the strongest forms of spiritual amnesia. Heavy emotional experiences act like seals, freezing certain memories to protect the psyche. But even when a soul forgets the origin of its wounds, the pain still leaks into the present. A fear of abandonment, a sense of urgency, or unexplained guilt can all be echoes from erased past lives. The body doesn't forget, even when the conscious mind does, it stores memory like a library with books written across time. And there's the final layer, social reinforcement. When schools, families, and institutions shame or ridicule anything beyond the physical world, the mind learns to reject its own inner voice. He calls this the collective hypnosis that keeps people spiritually short-sighted. But even in the middle of this conditioning, memory survives in breath, instinct, and recurring patterns. And once someone realizes that forgetting was never natural, they begin wondering, if memory can be suppressed, can it also be retrieved? He explains that remembering isn't about forcing anything, it's about creating the right conditions for memory to rise. When people sit in silence, meditate, or practice breathwork, they give their inner world space to speak. He always suggests starting with simple guided meditations focused on the heart or the third eye, because these centers hold echoes of erased past lives. And the more someone learns to listen, the more the subtle details of their soul journey begin to surface. Recovery is a gentle unveiling, not a dramatic revelation. He tells people that dream work is one of the most powerful methods. Keeping a journal by the bed and writing down dreams within the first 2 minutes of waking can change everything. Patterns quickly appear, recurring symbols, ancient landscapes, unknown languages. These aren't random, they're the fingerprints of forbidden reincarnation resurfacing through the unconscious. Over time, these clues begin forming a story that feels strangely familiar, like recognizing handwriting you didn't know was yours. He often encourages symbolic journaling too, not just writing facts but drawing impressions, emotions, or metaphors. When someone sketches a place they've never seen yet feels connected to, that's a sign. When they write about an emotion that doesn't fit their current life, that's another memory thread. These tiny fragments form bridges to erased past lives, helping the person see their identity as bigger and older than the mirror suggests. It's a slow process, but deeply rewarding. And he reminds people to pay attention to emotional hotspots, triggers, compulsions, or sudden bursts of inspiration. These are often coordinates on the map of their soul journey, pointing to wounds or gifts carried from other lifetimes. By asking questions like, "What do you want me to remember?" during meditation or reflection, the soul begins to answer in its own symbolic language. And every answer, even the smallest, prepares someone for the next step, living with the weight and power of everything that was once hidden. He explains that once someone begins reconnecting with their memories, life stops feeling like a single chapter and starts looking like an entire library. Patterns that once felt random suddenly make sense. Emotional reactions soften because the person sees they were never too sensitive, they were carrying echoes of erased past lives. And once this realization settles in, the world feels less threatening and more familiar. It's like recognizing the terrain of a place you've walked before. He gives examples of people who discovered lifelong talents weren't random gifts. A woman who painted like she'd been trained for years, even though she'd never touched a brush before. A man whose body instinctively moved in martial arts he'd never studied. These are the signatures of forbidden reincarnation, resurfacing when the soul finally has space to breathe. The more they embrace these gifts, the more aligned they feel with their true identity. It's not learning, it's remembering. He reminds people that knowing who they've been doesn't make life heavier, it makes it richer. When someone sees their soul journey as a continuum, they stop carrying shame or guilt as burdens. Instead, these emotions become clues, pointing toward a lifetime where the root was planted. It's a liberating shift, understanding that feelings aren't failures but messages sent across time. And with that understanding, people begin treating themselves with more compassion. And at that point, he says, something powerful happens, the person becomes unmanipulable. Once someone remembers even a fraction of what was hidden, they stop accepting small beliefs and small versions of themselves. They start living with a quiet confidence, like someone who's walked through centuries and survived every era. And that's exactly where the deeper mystery begins, because remembering is only the first step toward reclaiming everything they never wanted you to know. Now that you've seen how your erased past lives still breathe inside your emotions, choices, and instincts, the real question becomes, what will you do with this knowledge? Your life isn't a single moment in time, it's a doorway to a much larger soul journey that's been unfolding long before this lifetime. And every sign you've ignored, every dream you've dismissed, every coincidence that felt too sharp to be random, they were all calling you back to yourself. He invites you to start paying attention. Notice those emotional triggers that appear out of nowhere. Revisit the dreams that felt too real. Ask yourself why certain people feel impossibly familiar. These clues aren't just memories, they're keys. And the moment you stop brushing them aside, your inner world begins to open. So let me ask you something directly: what part of you is trying to resurface right now? And what truth have you been afraid to remember? You don't have to uncover everything at once. Remembering is a gentle process. But if you take even a small step today, like journaling a dream, meditating for 5 minutes, or simply acknowledging the emotions you've been avoiding, you'll start waking up fragments of your identity that were hidden for lifetimes. So tell me, what's the first sign you're planning to explore? Which memory crackled inside you while watching this? And if this message stirred something in you, a curiosity, a recognition, a spark, then stay with me on this path. There's so much more to uncover about forbidden reincarnation and the deeper layers of who you truly are. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and keep walking with me as we piece together the story they never wanted you to remember.